Okay, let's get started, shall we? Well, first of all, welcome to the Launch Academy National 6 application webinar. My name's Colette Matthewman. I'm an innovation lead at the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult. And that part of my role includes the oversight and ongoing development of Launch Academy. Today's webinar is really to give you a better understanding about the Launch Academy programme, about the application process, and to answer some questions that you might have. So we're recording today's session. It will be available afterwards alongside the slides on our website, so you will have a chance to go back over the content. For any questions that come up during the presentations, please do use the Q&A function. You'll see that on the bottom of your screens in the little bar. That's where we'll collate all of the questions and we'll likely answer all of those at the end. We've got some time at the end for Q&As. So onto the programme for today. I'll pass over to you in a moment. I'll pass you over in a moment to my colleague Peter Kinsley to talk more about the programme itself. But first, just to sort of run through the order of the day. Following Peter, we're really pleased that we've got two of the three sponsors of Launch Academy joining us today to give a bit of an introduction to their companies. So we've got Teresa Enriquez from ScottishPower Renewables, and Alex Aguiros from JERA Nex BP. We've also very pleased to have Adrian Green, who has recently been with us on the Launch Academy 5 programme, and he'll be talking a little bit about his own experience there. We'll come back then to Peter, who'll talk you through the application process, and then, as I mentioned, we'll have plenty of time for Q&As at the end. I want to really encourage you to ask your questions. This is the great opportunity for you to clarify anything that you feel is a little bit that you're a bit uncertain about, or that wasn't completely clear, or ask questions where you have certain specific things that you'd like to know, and we can collate all of those and share those afterwards as well. Just before I pass to Peter, I did want to just say a little something about the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult for those of you who aren't familiar with us as an organisation. We are one of 9 research and technology organisations established by the UK government to work alongside leading industry sectors, and really to help establish and enable innovation in those areas. As the name suggests, we work with offshore renewable energy sector, and we're a very mission-driven organisation. So we have a vision for a thriving net zero UK powered by renewable energy, and a mission to enable innovation and accelerate the development of offshore renewable energy, growing businesses and creating jobs throughout the UK. We have a range of unique facilities, research and engineering capabilities, and as you can see from the map there, they're spread all across the UK. And we work to bring together innovators, industry and academia, and sit at that sort of gap between academia and industry in terms of the research capabilities. We accelerate creation and growth of UK companies. We reduce cost and risk in renewable technologies, grow UK economic value, and enable the transition to a low carbon economy. So next slide, please, Peter. I just wanted to give a moment as well to say a big thank you to our sponsors for the Launch Academy 6 programme. We have ScottishPower Renewables, EDF Power Solutions, and JERA Nex BP, and we're really pleased to have them on board. They're fantastic support, and really critical to the programme in terms of bringing that real industry insight into the programme. So pleased to have them with us. Without further ado,
Sorry, Colette, you actually broke up a little bit there on my end at the end. But that's okay. Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, hi everyone. I'm Peter Kinsley. I'm an innovation manager here at ORE Catapult. And I'll be sort of managing the day-to-day on the program for the delivery. And for the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm just going to discuss the program, summarize it. It's quite important for everyone to understand what it is so that you can get your best foot forward in the applications, um, and yeah, sculpt your answers around the program as well as yourselves. So, to give everyone a little bit of a foundational understanding of what an accelerator is, I like to use a bit of an analogy. Um, the word accelerator is synonymous with incubators, but you might also just hear me say program. That is just a different way of describing it. So I like to use the analogy of a greenhouse, and for accelerators, um, industry demand will define the priority supply chain gaps. We'll then have a company such as ourselves that will come along and create this greenhouse, this support ecosystem, and they'll go through a rigorous selection process to find high growth, high value companies. They'll bring these into the greenhouse um, for a period of usually non-financial, high value support. We'll see these companies grow, become investment ready, gain valuable industry networks, advance product development, and validation, get clear plans for business growth, and get greater success with grant funding. And usually by the end of these, we then see the companies make their way back out to industry, or actually out to industry for the first time in commercializing their products. So with that in mind, this is basically what Launch Academy is. It's an award-winning offshore wind technology accelerator program. It's fully funded. There's no cost other than of time commitment. And really, it's made to remove the barriers to commercialization for the companies. So it's driven by innovation challenges from industry sponsors. They'll provide a pool through their own challenges, and also, in some cases, a route to market for some of the companies in here, if applicable. For the industry sponsors, it also acts as a really useful filter for them to reach out to end users that might be able to help them. So the program will bring in 10 companies, will give you 12 months of support, and we're looking for UK-based SMEs that are looking to commercialize a new product or service into the offshore wind sector. We're looking for TRL levels of approximately 4 to 6. And I like to highlight approximately because we do have a bit of wriggle room on that. And yeah, as mentioned, really what we want to do is push you into commercialization for the offshore wind industry. So we want your products to actually be used by the tier ones and the developers of the industry. So over the next few slides, I'm going to show you how we will do that. But first, a very quick hook onto Launch Academy and its track record of success, public success. The program's had 2 awards, and also a number of the companies that have come through this have seen awards themselves. But there's much more success behind the curtains, I guess you could say, for the other 71 companies that have graduated from this since 2020. So getting into the meat of the program, the program content. So we have found a way to deliver this under 3 columns: specialized industry knowledge, commercialization expertise, and business development support. And we take a bit of a module approach. So we've got 4 modules in each of these. And for the specialized industry knowledge ones on the left, they're all delivered by us. So first of all, we've got innovation support. This will be me, where I'll be sitting down with you for 30 minutes each month. I like to think of this one as the more wraparound support for the program. So I myself, along with an Innovate UK business growth advisor, will be helping you um, with your R&D direction, funding pathways, industry introductions, and maybe even access to ORE Catapult facilities where appropriate. I've now worked with 200 plus SMEs, so I would like to think I know what works and what doesn't in this industry. Second on the list, we've got technology development support. So this is 10 days worth of our support from somebody in our engineering team at ORE Catapult. This module reviews each company's technology development to date, identifies ways to accelerate progress, and provides tailored technical support. And for this, we like to say, if you had an expert offshore wind engineer in your office, say office, because they might not technically be in your office, but for 10 days, what would you want to do with them? We're quite flexible to work around your needs. The market cost and benefit analysis is the same thing, 10 days, but you'll have an analyst from our company working with your teams. And they can help you understand what kind of market exists for your product or service. And they've got a range of cost modeling tools to help you find that cost benefit analysis that you can put into your pitch decks for various reasons. We've got Offshore Wind 101, which is an introductory 2-hour session into offshore wind, just to make sure everybody has a baseline knowledge. Then moving to the right into commercialization expertise, we run a grant funding module, which is again delivered as a workshop, and it's just an overview of the non-dilutive funding landscape. We've then got investor readiness and value proposition, and I'm going to pair this with the branding and marketing module because they're both delivered by Sustainable Ventures, most likely in person at their London offices in their event space. And this is for you to assess and strengthen your business against investor due diligence criteria. And the branding and marketing is for you to help identify your brand, sharpen your messaging, and develop an effective marketing strategy. The last one in this column is technology qualification guidance delivered by DNV. And this empowers innovators by guiding them through a structured technology qualification process, again, by DNV, who are one of the best bodies in the world for that. Finally, in the last column, we have legal support provided by Shepherd and Wedderburn. We have IP support provided by Murgatroyd. We have an ED&I module given by us, and we have high growth accountancy, which is given by BDO. So we've designed this program to be responsive to the various stages and differing needs of companies taking part. We acknowledge that some of these modules will be useful to everyone, so they're core modules, but some of them might not be. And we've made these non-core modules so that you can opt out if need be. And you'll find a breakdown of what modules are core and what aren't core in the scope and guidance document on the application portal. So that's the program content. How is this structured? We take a bit of a mixed methods approach here. So we have some in-person delivery and some online delivery. Along the horizontal axis here, you'll see the 12-month timeline of the program. And on the vertical axis with the arrows pointing upwards, you'll see 4 in-person events throughout the year. So the first one is the launch day, where we'll also give 2 modules. And on the launch day, this is just an opportunity for you to introduce yourself as a business to the sponsors, understand what the program is about, and sort of get comfortable in it. The second one is, as mentioned, at the Sustainable Ventures offices. The third one, we've in the past had companies to exhibit at one of our conferences. The reason I can't say this for sure is because that conference only gets confirmed 6 months or maybe slightly longer before it happens. But you can expect us to do something around that date that will involve sponsors at the same time. And lastly, the graduation day, where you'll have a chance to discuss your progress with us and the sponsors, and we can have a little discussion on what the next steps are. And that's quite important because this program is a bit of a springboard onto the next 3, 4, 5 years. We want to continue working with you after this. Lastly, on this slide, we've got some online delivery. We've got 8 modules delivered through one-to-many workshops, around 2 hours each, and we've got one-to-one support, which is various depending on the needs of what you might want to do. I'd also like to mention on that chart, we've got 4 yellow circles, and these represent the advisory board meetings between ourselves, ORE Catapult, and the sponsors. And in this, I'll be putting your best foot forward in front of the sponsors. And you can see that these happen to fall just before the in-person events, so that the sponsors know everything about you before meeting you again. So we'll move on to the innovation challenges. And before I go through these, I'd like to say that there are documents on the application portal that go into a lot more detail. I also realize that it's quite difficult to know sometimes if your company fits within one of these, and I'd recommend just to reach out to me. My details are on the application portal, and I can sit down with you and we can have a think about these. So the first innovation challenge is innovation sensing and inspection hardware for long-term offshore infrastructure performance. And specifically, we're looking at vibration monitoring during offshore wind turbine commissioning. We're looking at remote to real-time assessments and monitoring of corrosion caused by harsh environments. And we're looking at advanced cable health monitoring and early fault detection technologies. The second innovation challenge is advanced lifting, transport, and component handling. Specifically, we're looking at structured solutions for planning and execution of heavy lift operations using UAVs, heavy lift assembly and management of oversized components for floating offshore wind, and construction and major component exchange within fixed bottom offshore wind turbines. And the last innovation challenge here is technologies to speed up offshore wind construction and reduce environmental impact. And specifically, this includes rapid change technologies for offshore wind components, solutions to reduce subsea environmental impacts during construction, wet storage, and tow-out solutions for floating wind deployment. And finally, novel installations solutions for deep water fixed bottom projects. And lastly, we've also got an open call. We recognize that there's companies out there that might not meet these innovation challenges, and we'd still very much welcome an application through that open call. So these innovation challenges have been decided by both us and the sponsors. These are real challenges that the industry faces at the moment. And lastly, from me, before I pass over to Teresa from ScottishPower Renewables, just a little bit on the eligibility guidelines. Must be a UK registered company. Technology development should be between TRL and 4, but again, we might consider other TRLs in special circumstances. Must be considered an SME, must not be considered an alien organisation, must be developing technology within the UK. Must have sufficient resources to engage in the programme, should be seeking to commercialise a new product, must not have previously participated in the programme, and must be willing to accept the minimum financial assistance subsidy, which is outlined in the supporting documents on the application portal. So without further ado, before I go into the application process at the end of this, I'm going to now pass over to Teresa for the ScottishPower Renewables introduction.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Teresa Enriquez, and I am the Offshore Innovation Manager for Scottish Power Renewables, which is part of the Iberdrola Group. My role, along with my teams, is to identify key challenges faced by our wind farms and our projects, and to scout the market for potential solutions, or even to collaborate with academia, forums, consultancies, and potential and other partners to develop new approaches when solutions don't exist yet. So a bit of context about Iberdrola. We are a vertically integrated utility, meaning that we operate across the whole value chains: generation, transmission, distribution, and retail, with a presence in over 20 countries. However, looking specifically at the offshore wind business, we have projects in the UK, France, Germany, USA, Japan, and Australia, either operating, under construction, or in development. Now, zooming in on the UK, SPR currently has 2 offshore wind farms in operation west of Dudon Sands and East Anglia 1, 2 under construction, East Anglia 2 and 3, 1 consented project, which is East Anglia 1 North, and 2 projects in development in Scotland. Moving forward to the next slide, I'd like to zoom into the East Anglia Hut, one of England's, which is on England's east coast, where we are developing a cluster of 4 fixed bottom offshore wind farms. What's particularly interesting about this area is the diversity of challenges that we face across the portfolio, simply because each project is in a completely different stage. East Anglia 1 has now been operational for over 5 years, which means that our focus there is on preventive maintenance, minor repairs, and advanced asset monitoring. East Anglia 3 will be the next to come online, and is currently under construction. It'll be one of the first 3 offshore wind farms in the UK with an HVDC grid connection, and also the second largest project of its kind, bringing a significant technical innovation. Alongside with it, East Anglia 2 is also under construction, with an expected COD date in late 2028. And finally, East Anglia 1 North is fully consenting and awaiting FID. This mix of operational, construction, pre-FID activity in such a concentrated area gives us a unique perspective and highlights how varied the needs and opportunities are across the UK portfolio. However, we are not only developing wind farms in England, we also have projects progressing in Scotland. First, on Scotland's west coast, just to the west of Islay, we have Maca Wind. Maca is currently undergoing pre-application consultations, and it's says to become truly significant project with a capacity of up to 2 gigawatts. We expect to reach consent later this year or next year. And finally, we have Marrum Wind, our second Scottish project, first floating offshore wind project in the UK. Marrum is scheduled to become operational in the 2030s. A few weeks ago, the project reached a major milestone with the submission of its offshore consent application, including the environmental impact assessment and the onshore application planning permission. Marrum could be even larger than Maca Wind. Maca will be 2 gigawatts, and Maca could be up to 3. So with that overview of our pipeline in mind, let's shift our focus in the wider landscape and discuss the main challenges that currently are shaping our offshore wind farm development. Some of the priorities that we are actively looking to overcome include not only the ones that Peter has highlighted before, but also like improved measurement of mid-ocean conditions, reduction or mitigation of environmental impacts, optimization of marine logistics, heavy lift operations, including but not limited to long distance or heavy lift drones, etc. Finally, to conclude, I would like to highlight why you might want to join this program. So beyond the excellent content delivered by ORE and the other partners, as explained before, participation would also offer the opportunity to gain potential access to our projects, receive technical feedback from our internal experts, and explore real-world challenges with the potential for future collaboration. So our sector is facing at the moment significant challenges, but that also means that opportunities are even greater. And thank you very much. And I will now hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you, Teresa. And we'll move on to Alex now, but we will have time for questions at the end, and Teresa and Alex and Adrian will be around with us at the end. So Alex, the stage is yours.
Thanks. Hi, Peter. Hi, everyone. So yeah, my name is Alex Arguras, and I'm the floating wind and innovation lead at JERA Nex. So I kind of have a dual role as responsibility around technology and engineering for floating wind. And I'm also part of the research and innovation team supporting the wider bottom fixed portfolio as well, looking at how we manage and prioritize innovation activities and qualify new technology. I'm actually standing in for my colleague, James Battensby, who is a Technology and Innovation Senior Manager and is our lead on the Launch Academy, and who you'd be interacting with more, but he's currently on leave this week. So if you could go to the next slide. So JNVP is a new offshore wind developer operator that is a 50-50 joint venture between two very large companies, JERA and BP, and brings together the operations, pipeline expertise, and global influence of the legacy offshore wind organizations at BP, JERA Nex, and Parkwind. If you go to the next slide. So we have about 1 gigawatt of assets in operation, and a very large development pipeline of projects of about 12 gigawatts gross in global locations. So some of these are with partners, like, for example, Oriole in Ireland, and some are JNVP only, like Ocean Beat, the 4 gigawatt project in Germany. So you go to the next slide. So technology innovation has been an important part of all of the legacy organizations. I should say that the company went live in August, so the actual new company is relatively young, but of course the legacy organizations are more established. So, but yeah, technology innovation has been an important part of all of the legacy organizations and remains an engine in our business strategy. Our research and innovation is centrally coordinated from the R&I team in order to maintain a strategic global approach, but it is a team effort across the whole organization, including engineers, operators, analysts, finance colleagues, HSE professionals, and sustainability experts, all working together in order to, well, firstly scan the horizon, identify new technologies, and then to track and assess these, including reviewing what technology validation and verification activities are being undertaken by the suppliers, and also feedback our own requirements as an end user, and then help accelerate their readiness through prototyping and demonstration opportunities, or potentially also deployment in a commercial context in our operating wind farms or development of commercial projects. A key metric for us is that the technology and innovation supports and provides value to the offshore wind portfolio. So that can be through reducing, for example, technical or safety risk, reducing costs such as CapEx and OpEx, improving sustainability, or improving revenue. Finally, the R&I team also manages the strategic R&I partnerships with companies, research technology organizations, universities, and also engage in applied research, usually with universities and RTOs, together with subject matter experts from our disciplines, our categories. So if you go to the next slide, I've now focusing on a couple more specific topics that are prioritized. These are just two examples of the kind of top areas in our technology roadmap. One of them is around lifetime extension and asset integrity. So this includes optimizing the design for prolonged lifespan and also technologies to extend life. So in relation to fatigue or corrosion, for example, and also improving lifetime operational performance. So including technologies like sensors, drones, unmanned subsea or surface vehicles, so like various robotics, but also the software for integrity management and predictive maintenance, or as some call it, digital twins. Then one more slide. Another topic we're prioritizing is on installation technologies that reduce subsea ecological impact. So we have quite a large pipeline of projects in development with the potential use of XXL monopiles in regions with strict regulatory requirements on noise. So we are supporting and working on a few activities on noise mitigation, for example, on near field screen type technologies or far field bubble curtain. Alternative installation techniques like vibrojetting. One example is this Simple 3 joint industry project, which we're partners in, or alternative impact hammer technologies. And one more slide. Then we are engaging actively with the industry on R&I through multiple JIPs. So for example, the Carbon Trust Offshore Wind Accelerator, the Floating Wind, the ORE Catapult Floating Wind Center of Excellence, the GROW program, and so on. A number of sort of big programs, as well as sort of specific JIPs on specific topics, like flange connection systems and things like that, as well as being active sponsors on this Launch Academy for several years now. We have a portal for suppliers of technologies and solutions to get in touch with, which is on our website. So yeah, I guess like looking forward to the next year of Launch Academy, as Alfonso put, in his quote. I think that, I think it's a very, very good program, and we're happy to be supporting it. And, yeah, looking forward to the next tranche of suppliers.
Thank you, Alex. That's brilliant. I think you both agree that we're not short of innovation challenges in offshore wind, and there's a lot of hunger. There's a lot of need for a stronger supply chain and more innovation coming into that. Okay, great. So we're going to finish off here before I pick things back up with Adrian from Heavy Lift Projects. Adrian came through the program last year, and he's just going to tell you a little bit about his experience with that.
Thanks, Peter. Yes, so I'm here, I guess, as a sort of someone to give an overview of what it's like from a sort of candidate perspective. Little introduction. Heavy Lift Projects. We're a pre-revenue startup, so very early stages, but we're quite ambitious. You can see the picture on the screen there. That's what we're trying to achieve, is to build these massive 6,000 ton plus capacity ring cranes and put them into the market for floating ring construction. So it's really ambitious project. As a company, we have lots of experiences of working at other businesses within the industry, and so our experience before the program was very much we had an idea and we were trying to find a way to bring it to market. Requires a lot of capital expenditure, this type of this technology, and beforehand we knew that we could engineer the program, we knew that we could engineer the product, but actually getting out there and speaking to developers and understanding exactly their requirements to make sure that we were building the right thing and it all fit together was a tough challenge. Launch Academy really helped with that. During the program, as a startup company, we made a lot of use of all of the help and resources that's made available, and I would encourage everybody to do the same. Particularly, we found the 10 hours of technology research and market research very useful for us. There are lots of other bits of resource which are made available: legal, marketing, leadership, you know, everyone's on a bit of a different point of their journey of the business, and so some may be more relevant than others, but I fully encourage everyone to get on board with all of it, because, you know, after you pass through the program, well, certainly it was our experience that, you know, we came out as a bit more of a well-rounded, refined offering to the market, and that was in part because of, you know, the help and assistance from the Catapult. So we were successful in actually receiving a grant for £2 million, and that was through Scottish government, and you know, a large part of that was due to the work that the ORE Catapult helped us with during the last cohort. So yeah, get involved. That's definitely a biggest piece of advice that I can give you. Peter.
Thank you, Adrian. That's a nice message. And if you could just stick around for potential Q&As that might come your way, that would be great as well. Okay, last but not least, we'll just go through, or I'll just go through the application process with you and attempt to demystify any questions that might come my way before they come my way. So first of all, click apply, have a look through the scope and guidance documents, really understand what the program is, how it works, so that, as I mentioned, you can write your answers on the application, leaning into both you and a company, you as a company, but also how you fit into the program. Application deadline is on the 25th of March, so you've still got around a month, around 5 weeks, I think. On the 13th of April, actually, sorry, I should say, applications will then be assessed using a set criteria. This isn't a rigid set of points you have to hit in each answer, but we take more of a holistic view to each answer. And we have set scoring across multiple assessors to reduce bias. On the 13th, you can be expected to either get a note saying you're successful or get your application feedback. And we strongly believe that you've put a lot of time and effort into these applications, and we will reciprocate that with feedback if you aren't successful at this stage. You'll then be invited to pitch. Pitching dates are the 28th and the 29th of April. And then after that, you will be, if you are accepted on the program, we will select that early May, and we'll begin program onboarding throughout May with the launch event planned in June. So, last but not least, before we move on to questions, and I'm sure there's plenty in the chat, I'm just going to go through the application questions just to let the people here know kind of a little bit more about what we expect. I'm going to walk through the 5 application questions, and but before I do that, I'd like to just say that what you see on this screen is exactly what is up on the portal, so there's no need to note any of this down. On the right-hand side, there's some guidance. Again, you'll see this on the portal. These are things that you might want to include in your answers. There isn't any expectation to address every point. It's purely guidance, and it does not form any part of the assessment criteria. So that's quite an important part to note. Also, before I start, we've had some questions for companies applying as a partnership with another company. And we've had these questions in the past. What we would expect is to see a clear lead applicant that can make that can lead on decision making, and that's kind of because you'll see a lot of the modules are based around business support, so we need somebody that can use that. And in your answers to the questions, we'd like to see a clear structured approach to this partnership, whether that's a potential joint venture in the future a joint venture now. These are the kind of things that we like to see. So going into the questions. So the first one, need or challenge. This is where we want you really to focus on the problem that you're addressing. We understand that some companies might be coming from different industries after seeing, maybe a challenge area, such as corrosion monitoring. I would say for those companies, please at least demonstrate some level of understanding of how this issue might accept offshore wind beyond the details given in the innovation challenge. Similarly, if you're applying in the open category, please state the problem clearly. We want to see that companies are seriously considering working in the sector. So you'll address the problem. We then want to see you touch a little bit on the solution, just to introduce it, and we want to see a little bit of understanding about the market, whether there's any competition out there. Okay, second question, feasibility and scalability. So we've now been through the problem. What is the solution? We want to dig deeper into what makes your solution technically and economically feasible, and having as much data behind that as you can is better. What are the key steps required to reach commercial deployment in offshore wind? This helps give us a little bit of an idea of how the program might help you. And if we can help more, that will incentivize us to bring you onto the program. And finally, how do you think your solution might integrate into offshore wind systems? Again, this is just guidance. You don't need to touch on every point. Third question, we've been to the problem, we've been to the solution. Now we're looking into the future, the potential impact of your solution once you've commercialized it, once it's taken up by the offshore wind market. So yeah, what impact and if adopted at scale, what wider benefits could you achieve? Finally, the last two questions are fairly self-explanatory. Team and resources. We want to understand through the last three questions, we might know that you're an exceptional company. We might know that you're a good fit for the program, but we want to understand how you might commit to the program in terms of experience, skills, and company resources. And finally, just on the last question, again, we want to know if you're a good fit for the program. Why do you want to be in Launch Academy based off of what you've heard today? And what do you want to achieve throughout it? What's your company's long-term interest in the offshore wind sector? So hopefully that helps demystify it a little bit. I've finally got a little bit of sort of mistakes to avoid in the application. Again, these are in the scope and guidance documents, but the first one, AI usage. AI is a powerful tool. I use it quite often, but I would just say don't overuse it. It's quite easy to do so. Second one, overstating your capability. Just be honest about your current TRL, your limitations, and what support you need. Because if you're a company that needs that support, we're more likely to be able to give it. Third, please don't focus solely on networking. I think that's self-explanatory, but there's a lot more to the program than just networking. Avoid vague or generic responses. Please use close to the full word allocation for the questions. We ask for sort of around 80%. Please make sure you've got evidence, data backing your answers. And finally, tailor your answers to the program. So hopefully that's helped answer a few questions. I realize that a lot of questions might be quite company specific. So again, please feel free to just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a call with you and we can figure out why the program might be a good fit. Here's a QR code for the application portal. And I'm going to close this window now to take on some potential questions. But lastly, here's our team, and here's some contact details within that. I've also put the SME growth support team that can help you if you don't think the Launch Academy is a good fit. You know, say for example, you're at a lower TRL, you're at 1 or 2, but you still need that support. That's something that we can still help with. So I wanted to make that clear. Okay, so we'll go to questions now. I haven't seen questions at all. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. And I'm going to try and facilitate these as best I can. So first up, we've got a question from Nigel. How does the Catapult determine if a company is an SME? We have a larger parent company, which is okay for some definitions, but not for others. That's a good question, Nigel. Colette, looks like you're about to make a response here.
I was going to say, yeah, because this is potentially a fairly convoluted answer. So technically, an SME is classed as a company with less than 250 employees, and there's a turnover threshold as well, which I forget off the top of my head. But really, probably in terms of the Launch Academy program, we tend to be working with the smaller end of those companies. So companies with up to kind of 50, 60 maximum. So the micro and the small micro and small companies. In principle, it is not a problem if that company sits under a larger parent company. There's a little bit of potentially requirements for us to check things like the minimal financial assistance requirements, depending on whether the company operates slightly separate of that parent company or is classed as a single entity. So we're kind of we're quite loose with the barriers of what we're looking at, because we are really looking for companies where through the program we're really able to help sort of accelerate their trajectory and really make impact. So that's the more defining feature than sort of having a narrow type of company we're looking at. But if there's any, Nigel, if there's any concerns, if you want to have a quick chat about it to make sure that you meet the eligibility requirements, then we're happy to do so, and to just have a quick look at your case separately.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, second question. Is the IP/legal support module also at no cost or paid? So these are at no cost. The IP support module is a 2-hour workshop, plus they've given some time for some individual one-to-ones, which is usually about an hour. They'll do a bit of an IP health check and inform you on your IP strategy. The legal support is access to Shepherd and Wedderburn's Start to Scale Hub, which has a range of resources. It's a brilliant tool, and there's opportunity for some one-to-one support for them as well. But what I would like to make clear is that this doesn't replace any commercial IP or legal teams or support that you might already have. It's just extra to that. Okay, I hope that helps. Third question, what should we do if the tech or company falls into more than one challenge? This is quite an easy one, and that's great if it does. You can tick more than one box on the application portal, and I'd recommend you do that. The more challenges that your company faces and provides a solution to, the better. Okay, can a company outside of the UK apply and later register a company in the UK. I might just hand this one over to you, Colette or Dylan, if either of you fancy answering it.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't be keen on that generally. We are looking for companies that are really sort of, that it's within their strategic plan to develop technology within the UK and to kind of have a base of operations within the UK as well. So it's really about us understanding if this has been part of a longer term plan, then that's one thing. If it's really about just accessing the program, this is very much a program for establishing and developing technologies within the UK. So that's a little bit of a fluffy answer, perhaps. I'm happy if that person wants to drop us a line if they'd like to talk about that in more detail. If that's not clarified things for them, then please do so, and we can try to be a bit more specific relating to their case.
Yep. Okay, for this next question, Adrian, I might actually just pull you in here. Somebody's asked, what is considered to be sufficient resource to engage in the core activities? So it might be nice just to hear from you how you found that and if it was okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've seen a few questions about the level of commitment. So we're a small team. We didn't have a huge amount of resource to be able to throw at this. I did share some of the invitations to the sessions with other people in my engineering team. The sessions are typically sort of 2.5, 3 hours long, and usually that on the back of that you get some level of further assistance from the different modules. As a business, we were already very well versed in the sort of legal IP side of things. We knew that was a big part of our business strategy from very early on. So that we attended the legal and IP sessions, and they were good to attend. There was some decent information which we picked up from that, but ultimately we didn't take full use of the additional resource that was provided afterwards. So that was a 2-hour meeting, which happens, I think, once a month. Is that about right, Peter?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And then the days, the 4 days out, they're great. I thoroughly encourage people to go get involved with those. It's I work internationally and do a lot of our business development over in the Southeast Asia region. I didn't find it that difficult to be able to hit the invitations that were issued. So I know as a small business, you're usually running pretty hard, making sure everything's moving forward across the board. But ultimately, I didn't find it personally that much of a drain on my resource, and we're in a very similar position, I'm sure, from many other small businesses trying to make sure that we've got a product which is serviceable for the industry.
Could I just come in on that as well, Peter? So I think we very much appreciate, our team work a lot with SMEs, and so we very much appreciate that time is a very valuable resource, and there's generally not enough for everything. But we do find that the companies who do engage more get a lot more out of the program. So I think that's worth saying. I have done a little bit of a sum up that in addition to the 5 days in person that Peter mentioned earlier, it's about 10 hours of online workshops, plus some of the one-to-one support off the back of those, and then about 10 hours of one-to-one support with us, which includes things like the workshop to define the brief for your technology development and market analysis pieces of work with us. But for those 10 hours of one-to-one time with the Catapult that is spread across the 12 months of the program, you get about 22 to 23 days worth of the Catapult time. So I think that's just worth worth flagging up. Also, one of the things that we do encourage is that you have a kind of a primary representative, if you will, who's somebody at the right level to sort of embed lessons within the company and so on, who tries to, where possible, attend some of those events, or as many of those events as possible. But also, we understand where there are constraints, and we're always happy to have conversations about what's most critical to you and how to manage your attendance.
Thanks, Claire. Okay, moving on to the next question. We've been asked by Chris, as a micro startup with a FOAK patented generator technology at TRL 4, would we meet eligibility criteria for the open call, and would technology validation support be part of the program? It's hard to say without speaking to you and knowing a little bit more about the technology, but from what you said, generator technology, I think the open call is the place for you to apply, definitely. And yes, technology validation support will be part of the program. And you'll have access to 10 days of our engineers' time, but also that's something that I can support you with, introductions into. We've got whole R&D teams that look at generators, and that could be really useful for you. Okay, Joe, I'm going to answer your question. Can more detail info be shared about the offshore wind key challenges? And I actually might pull in Teresa and Alex here, just to maybe signpost maybe a few other areas that the companies can go to see the more info about the challenges. Specifically on this program, you can read more on the application portal. But with regards to O&M and remote monitoring interest, I'll let the sponsors answer that.
Yes, of course. Well, regarding the O&M remote monitoring interests, it's quite wide. So in any solution that it's being offered by the company, we will be interested in hearing about it. We would be interested in seeing at what point of the development they are and what would they be looking to accomplish with it. And we unfortunately don't have any source or any point for them to go for to see like a full list of the challenges of what would like to see. But well, I think we did a very good job defining which were the key challenges that we wanted to tackle within the program. So all the information that is listed in the Launch Academy portal, it's well detailed, and it refers to some of the main areas that we would like to target ASAP.
I guess I can add maybe one thing. I think, yeah, as sort of Teresa said, it is a very broad area, like the remote monitoring and O&M optimization space. Like, I think maybe there are, in my view, there's like maybe three sort of broad buckets where they can fit in around digital twins, sort of the software space. And then there is the autonomous sort of systems like vessels, drones, all that stuff. And then there is the kind of sensor technology space as well, whether it's like something on the blade, something on the foundation, on the cables. So, and we not necessarily from the Launch Academy, but also other programs, we see quite a lot of like innovations in these three sort of buckets within the remote monitoring space, which is great. I think it would be good to also think about like have like system thinking is quite important. So even if you're just developing a sensor technology, still think how it fits in the broader system in terms of the software interfacing, and then also potentially the other like autonomous technology interfacing, even if it's just a single solution. I think that's quite important to kind of, I would say, to think about the sort of O&M space rather than just being overly focused on just the technology, even if you are just, let's say, providing one of those buckets. Yeah.
Thank you both. I realise we've slightly gone over the time in the agenda. We had it until 3, but I think it's important to answer these questions. If anybody needs to leave, please feel free to do so. This is recorded as well, so you'll be able to see answers to all of the questions shortly on our YouTube channel and the socials and on the website. Okay, Andy, if you have received TCE supply chain accelerator funding, so that's the Crown Estate, can you still apply? Yes. We've also had this question regarding companies that have already received OWGP funding, the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership. Yes, the only time you couldn't apply is if you've been on Launch Academy specifically beforehand. Okay, the next question I might pass on to you, Colette. Are the services on offer interchangeable? For example, if we don't need legal support, but we need more Catapult support, can we redelegate the grant, the support?
Yeah, it's a good question. Unfortunately, they're not, because they are delivered by things like the legal support and IP support are delivered by different partners. And so we aren't able to just pass that time across to a different organisation. However, if there's sort of additional needs beyond the programme, we are able to connect you in with the relevant people within the Catapult, and sort of look at other ways to making that happen. So we're really keen to work with the companies on the cohort, sort of both within the programme, but also beyond the scope of the programme. That's part of the role that Peter, as Innovation Manager, will be doing through that innovation management support piece, that he'll be trying to understand what other needs there are and sort of helping, whether it's signposting to other support or whether it's sort of linking you internally with the right people. We'll sort of do what we can to make things happen.
Thanks, Colette. Adrian, what was your realistic time commitment to the program overall? I think we've answered that already, so I'll just click that we've answered that and hope that's okay. Next question, will you provide any support to shortlisted applicants? For example, pitch support. Yeah, great question. So we actually have support from Innovate UK Business Growth, and they will support potentially support companies that are then pitching, things like pulling together a pitch deck, and that sort of wraparound support. Colette, I don't know if you want to add to that at all as well.
Yeah, I was going to say what we're likely to do is provide some feedback from the application form, especially if there's specific elements that we'd like to understand better at the pitching stage. We've also planned to deliver a webinar to those who are shortlisted for pitching and invited to pitch, to sort of talk through the process, talk through what's expected, what makes a good pitch, and that sort of thing. And then, as Peter said, there's opportunity to reach out to us and to work with Innovate UK potentially if you need a little bit more support in preparing.
Thank you. And I think we've got around 6 questions left. So which TRL system are you using? Great question. So we've got NASA, DNV or ISO. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain for us as innovation managers that there isn't something standard. Colette, I might bring you in to answer this. We had a bit of a chat on this. Because we are sort of tied to Innovate UK, we like to use what Innovate UK has, but we also accept that there are some maybe some shortcomings to the way that they describe things. I guess a way to answer your question is we're looking between TRL 4 and 6. What that means is for you to have something that's validated in the lab at TRL 4 and TRL 6. You've demonstrated your technology in the environment, and if you sit sort of closely on either side of that, we can be flexible there.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate what you said, Peter, that yes, we haven't quite sort of pinned our colours to the mast on a single TRL system, but we are looking in that 4 to 6 region, but not exclusively necessarily. It's more about that 4 to 6 TRL 4 to 6 region is where we feel we can really help shift the dial through the Launch Academy program. But there's possibilities if people are sitting slightly outside that, but the program feels like a really good fit to them, then we are likely not to exclude them just because technically they sit at TRL 7, for example, or 3 on one of the scales. So it's use it as a little bit of a guide. We're more interested in how the program can really help to move the technology forwards by working with you.
Thanks, Claire. We've had some really good engagement here. I don't know if we're going to get through all of these, but we'll do our best. Can companies apply together as a consortium? I kind of touched on that in my presentation. I think we could support 2 companies as a partnership. It needs to be clear in the application how that would be structured, and you would need a lead applicant that can lead on decision making. But anything above 2 companies, and for us, I think it could get very complicated. But if you can clearly state in your application and show that it works, you know, maybe there's a chance. Okay, Sneha, having IP protection before the application submission, is it mandatory? I might pass this one on to Colette, if that's one that you can answer.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Our IP protection isn't mandatory before the application. We can put things in place like non-disclosure agreements. I think that we just need to be a bit mindful that that through the process you're able to participate without sort of risking disclosure. But I don't see for most of the sort of content, with the exception of where you're working with the Catapult, there's not a lot of reason to or need to share sort of technical details. So I think as long as we're careful about how that's handled, it's not a problem in principle.
Good. Okay, next question. Is there a requirement to be Scottish registered for grant funding? I'm not sure if by grant funding you mean to apply for the program, maybe. To apply for the program, you need to have a company's house registration, so UK. Doesn't have to be Scottish. I think that answers the question, but please reach out to me if I've answered that horribly.
Sorry, Peter, I was just going to jump in there and maybe add some clarification on exactly how the funding's distributed. So yeah, my name's Dylan. I'm the project manager for Launch Academy. So yeah, the third of the Stooges. Yeah, so the program doesn't distribute financial funding to an organization in the terms of a kind of cash or monetary contribution. It's £19,933 of minimal financial assistance, which is the kind of successor to de minimis funding, which is essentially in-kind support. So that is the value of the support that you receive into your business, which is obviously given you through contributions from ORE Catapult time and our engineers, our analysts, that kind of thing. There is a requirement to not exceed, I think it's £315,000 over a 3-year rolling period. So if you have been part of any of the programs, I think the Crown Estate was mentioned earlier there, just understanding how that was done and how that subsidy is being provided, and making sure you don't go over those kind of thresholds. But there is no kind of grant element going to a company directly, although there is a subsidy being provided. It is in kind from our internal time. I hope that answers it. In terms of any other questions on subsidy.
Thank you, Don. Next question from Dan. Our next steps are testing, relevant environment and lab for certification, and certification support. Are you or DNV able to assist? Yes, this is our bread and butter as a Catapult, so it sounds like you'd be a really good fit for the program, Dan. In the past programs, how do companies work together with the offshore wind sponsors? Is it via paid pilots with the program sponsors, or does the SME need to sponsor the pilot at a Catapult testing site? Colette, how do you feel answering this? I can also
I was going to say, do you want me to take it a first go, and then you can always add to it to my answer if you wish. So through the program itself, there's sort of various there's a few touch points along the way with the sponsors, which will enable you to touch base with them, to sort of talk to them about your technology, get their insights on things like the fit to their programs or sort of specific requirements from their perspective. We've also got a process by which they can feed sort of insights through us and the advisory board that we can pass on to you, and there'll be sort of several chances to have those conversations along the way. Things like pilots, they're quite a mixed bag, and you know, pilots can mean very many different things. They can come with very different sort of funding requirements and so on. So there's not really a one size fits all answer. Certainly the sponsor's commitment to the program doesn't include any sort of prior commitment to pilots. So that would be depending on your sort of ongoing discussions with the sponsors. But it's something that we would basically discuss as a group throughout the program to identify the best route to making that happen, and what sort of funding might be required, and where you might be able to raise that funding. I don't know, Peter, whether you've got anything you wanted to add to that.
I don't necessarily have anything to add, but if Teresa and Alex are still around after we technically finished about 15 minutes ago, it would be nice to hear from them how they've worked with companies in the past, how they would like to work with companies in the future. Yeah.
Yes, of course. As Colette said, it's very much technology dependent, and exactly it depends on what the company is trying to solve, as well as what is the TRL level, what's the stage, and what would be needed. So that I recall, we had a company last cohort that had trials in ORE facilities in Blythe, and we had some of our experts in that matter in place to give feedback to the trial that they were like performing. And we also had exploring with other companies potential trials at the end of the program in some of our wind farms. So there's like different possibilities. It depends on the technology mainly.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, last two questions here. How do we apply if we have a technology that is not quite the whole solution in itself, but would be a critical part of the product that is the solution? In particular, we have propulsion technology that would form part of a heavy lift drone, but we do not make the drone itself. I think for me, Andrew, it's quite hard to say now, based on this information. I would really recommend that you reach out to us and we can sit down and learn a little bit more about your technology. And then we can answer that question for you. Sorry, now it's the last two. Oh no. Last question. We are a startup company which employs on the basis of 0-hour contracts at the moment. Does company human resources have to be full-time employees? From me, the answer to that would be no. I think we'd like to have at least, you know, 1 or 2 people with that are full-time employees, but we also recognise that a lot of startups are also employed by other businesses. So that's okay. Okay, that takes us to the end. So I'm just going to wrap things up. This recording and the slides will be sent out to everybody here. They'll be posted on our YouTube channel, on our website, on the application portal. And I'd like to just say a massive thanks to the speakers, Colette, Alex, Teresa, Adrian, and thank you to the attendees as well. Please reach out to us. We're really excited for this program, and best of luck, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.